And now. Okay, let's start it like this. Well, he got a new dance and it go like this. Yeah, this is the real Joey D, or what's left of him anyway. You know what it is? I never stopped doing. So for 60 years, I've been doing it. And I think when you stop, that's when you drop. We're working as a house band in the Peppermint Lounge, which is in the heart of the theater district in New York City. Merle Oberon came in with Charlie Knickerbocker. And I was doing Hank Ballard's version of the twist in my show. And the kids were on the dance floor. They're high school kids here, really. And they were doing the twist. And Merle Oberon thought it'd be a hoot to get up and dance. And so she did. And she had a wonderful time. And Charlie Knickerbocker wrote about it in his column in the Daily News the next day. It just morphed into a phenomenon. The timing was perfect. I happened to be at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. I am a doo-wop era guy, the 50s and 60s. And in the 50s, I was playing at a place called St. Anthony's CYO Dance, which I played every Friday night for about a year. And it was just called Joey D's band. I went through the clarinet and then the saxophone. Then we became New Jersey's hottest band, I would say, in 1956, 7. And we got to do the Ted Mack show. My sister, Mary, and her husband, who was my godfather, Sam, put in an application. And 2 weeks later, he got an approval, and we went in an audition, and we got to do the Ted Mack show. So it was really cool. And that group was 5 of us. And that's when I started playing the alto saxophone. We came in second to a kid. We sang Danny Boy, and he won. It's in the book that I wrote, Peppermint Twist Chronicle. I was working at a club in New Jersey called Oliver's, and we always had a big crowd. The band was that good. The band was great, needed great vocalists. So what I did was I took one vocalist, Rogers Freeman, from a doo-wop group because they didn't have any music. And I took David Brigatti from his group, the High Five, and I took the 2 best singers I felt in New Jersey, except for Frank Sinatra. I added them to the group. So now I got the best singers and the best band, and we were the hottest group around. We had a New York City agent, Don Davis, come because he saw all these cars in the parking lot. Said, what? Something must be going on. Came in from Pennsylvania, some gigs there. Came and he heard the band, and during my break, he said, how'd you like to work in New York City? And I said, what? That was my dream. We're going to make it. It had to be in the Big Apple. He got me a 3-day gig as an interim fill-in band for the house band who's taking a hiatus. So a Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday in October of 1960, when we had our baptism in the Peppermint Lounge. And it was a real dump. And it held maybe 200 people. It was in Hell's Kitchen. Man, did I get an education there. New York was the Mecca. And at 52nd Street, it was all jazz guys. I did like some jazz. And I'll tell you a jazz story. One night at the Peppermint Lounge, King Curtis and Miles Davis come in after doing a record session. They get up on stage and jammed with my band, the Starlight. What do you think that was like? No iPhones back then, so I couldn't take any pictures. I don't tell people that, but it's in the book that I wrote, and it's factual, and everything in the book is factual. Most of the stories are fun, wonderful experiences, but there's some sad parts. And then the Ronettes came in one night, and they were so great, I hired them. They were part of my review, Joey D and the Starlight. The Ronettes, Hall of Famers. Well, just having Lenny Bruce in the audience and sitting with him in between the break. He was way ahead of his time, A great, great comedian. He had one of the quickest wits. I got to work with Don Rickles in L.A. We worked 3 weeks together, and it's in the book, man. There's some really funny stories in there. But my proudest achievement in my musical career is having the first integrated band with a #1 Billboard hit. And we went through some trials and tribulations. When I say there were some sad times, there were. It's amazing. Well, Pesci used to come into the Peppermint Lounge, and he brought in this kid, Larry Verneri. Pesci was from Belleville, and Larry was from Newark. So they commuted into the city, and I needed another singer. So Larry was in a group called The Cameo. So I auditioned him and hired him. So Pesci used to come in every night. He loved the group. He heard we were doing a movie for Paramount called Hey, Let's Twist. He said, do you think you can get me, an extra job in the movie? And I said, I'll talk to the director. He said, can the kid twist? I said, yeah, he's terrific. So during the movie, you can see where that was Pesci, man. He knew he was going to be somebody sometime. And he certainly won an Academy Award. And he was another guitar player of mine. So I had 2 guitar players in my band. I put together a group called the Young Rascals, Hall of Famers, Gene Cornish, Felix Cavalieri, Eddie Brigati. So now I got 2 members in Rock and Roll's Hall of Fame, Hendrix and Cornish, and one won an Academy Award. Pesci. That's a pretty hard act to follow. And it's all in the book, man. When I read the book, I said, all of this couldn't happen to one person. But you know what? It did. And guess what? It was me. And here's how the Beatles came to the Peppermint Lounge. 1963, I'm working in Europe, Hamburg, Germany, Star Club, where everybody worked. Little Richard, Patch Domino, Bill Haley, Joey D, the Starlighters, and all the English. Everybody's touting this one group. And I'm saying, I wish I could be here the same time they were there. Unfortunately, I get a gig, Stockholm, Sweden. One of those groups happens to be the Beatles. My opening act. They were so great. I threw a party for them that night at the Hotel Forest in Stockholm. They were so impressed that I thought so much of that. They said, we're coming to the States in a couple of months. This is October 1963. They came to the States a couple of months later. Talked to George, and he said, when we come to the States, we're coming to the Peppermint Lounge. Couldn't ask for a better musical career, a life. They gave me, when I say they, I mean my fans and the people that bought my records, that came to my concerts, gave me such a great opportunity. The last 11 years, I wrote this book. It took me 11 years to get it to where I felt it was very honest. And there's some stories there I'm not very proud of, but most of it I danced with Judy Garland. I danced with Shirley MacLaine, Shelley Winters. How cool is that? When the English invasion occurred in 1964, we all were put out of work, mostly, except for Motown, the Bee Gees, and my very dear friends, the Four Seasons. Frankie Valli grew up with, we were all Jersey. And I used to go watch them when they were the Four Lovers. Frankie Valli, Nicky Machoch on bass, Tommy DeVito on guitar, and Bob Gaudio, the keyboard and songwriter. I mean, they had it all. And we worked many, many times together. Just marvelous. The kind of guy I am is I relish the success that they all had. They were all in the Hall of Fame. No jealousy or animosity. We all got along great. We're still friends today. And they all considered that I was a stepping stone to get them to where they got. That's wonderful. That's what I was there for. I had my own band. I did what I did, and they did what they did. Now, Hendrix is another story. I'm looking for a guitar player, and my drummer, Jimmy Mays, said, there's a dude just got off the road with Little Richard and the Isley Brothers. So I said, bring him to my house in New Jersey, and I'll audition. So my nephew, Johnny, drives a car over with Jimmy, picks him up at this raggedy hotel he was at, and they brought him to my house in Lodi, New Jersey, and he didn't even have a guitar case. He takes his guitar out of his bag, and he said, what do you want to hear? And I said, play what you like. So he starts playing Curtis Mayfield. And I said, you need Play No More. I said, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. You're in. So great. Here's what I did. I let him do the first 10 minutes before the band went out. He went out and just played solo. God blessed me with a wonderful musical ear. And then after he played his thing, it was a tough act to follow. So we came out. We did okay. He made us always bring our A game, look good, and play. I had the greatest singers, so I had no problem. So who comes to the Peppermint Lounge to hear my rehearsals? Johnny Mathis. Johnny Mathis. And David Brigati singing some of his songs in our show. Well, the awards I got, my hometown of Passaic, very special to me at Marchfeld. The award that's right over my shoulder there is my record I got from Roulette Records, gold record of Peppermint Twist, that was given to me by my dear friend Dick Clark on American Bandstand. So I would say that's one of the highlights of my career. Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for loving the music, and our generation of rock and roll is still here, believe it or not, unique to itself. It came along at the right time, right after World War II. I love the big band music. That's what I started with. I have oldest sisters. I come from a family of 10. I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers. They taught me good music, and I had a God-given ear, so it just came natural. I just wish I had Johnny Maestro or Frank Sinatra's voice. I got to work a little harder. Every story in there, 100%, even the bad part. We love you too. Peace. God bless.